Okay, so one of the apps that we chose to build was GRADit. And if you were at the summer retreat last year, I believe, you've probably seen an early version of this. So GRADit is a context-based GRE vocabulary game. And what I mean by context-based is today a lot of standardized tests have questions in the form of a paragraph with a word blanked out, and then you have to choose from a list of multiple choices which word would actually go into that blank. So GRADit's goal is to help, or to be a fun alternative for students studying for these kinds of tests. So here's our landing page, and if you guys want to, I guess, take your laptops out and follow the demo with us, the URL is gradit.radlab.net. You can see it right up there. Yeah. And also, we've created accounts for all the attendees already, so if you want to log in, it's your first initial followed by your last name, so mine's Feng. And if you log in and you don't have an account, no problem, you can go ahead and register right down here. So don't have an account and register.
And then you just type your name again, password?
Yeah. So your name and your login and password are the exact same thing. So your first initial followed by your last name. So if I click play a game, I'll be taken to my dashboard. And a dashboard is the place where you can kind of see any current pending games you have, start any new games, and view your challenges or the leaderboard, which I'll talk about later when I talk about the social aspect. So if you want to play a game, you can go ahead and create a new game, and we have a bunch of pre-loaded, Yeah, we have a bunch of preloaded word lists, so you can go ahead and choose from any of these sample word lists. So here's a game that I actually started this morning. So I'll go ahead and play that. And GRADit kind of has, it's a game format where it gives you a paragraph with a word blanked out with multiple choice options, just like the actual test would. And it's actually in a game format, so hopefully it's a lot more fun than reading from a practice book of GRU questions. So if you go ahead, we have all of our contexts loaded from actual books. So for the purposes of this demo, we're using Project Gutenberg. So if I click a random word, oh, I got it wrong, and it actually tells you what the definition of the word, so you're learning as you play. Try one. Oh, I got it right. Okay. So as you play the game, it records your score. You get positive points for correct answers and incorrect points for or negative points for incorrect answers. And it shows you how many words you have left in the game. You can also quit at any time, and it'll actually show your game as a finished game. For example, I got a score of 25. To introduce a social aspect, we have a leaderboard down here, which kind of motivates you to do better and play more games. So you can see the top scores for games currently played. Who's D Wong? Someone challenged me. So our other social aspect is multiplayer. So you can challenge people. Right on the leaderboard, you can challenge any of these users to a game. And what a challenge means is you actually both play the same game. You go through the same word lists, and at any time you can quit the game. And can whoever D Wong is quit their game too, so we can see the finished. Oh, there we go. So it shows that that's finished. So challenge between D Wong and A Feng. So he won because I got -5 points and he got 60 points. So we also encourage you to play. This will be up during the course of the day, so we encourage you to really play the game, not during the actual demos, of course, but just try it out to see how it goes. Yeah. So our next app will be Scatter. Where's the other mic?
Where's the mouse? So the other application that we'll be demoing is a Twitter clone that we call Scatter. If you've been to past retreats, you might recognize Scatter. We'd like to note that this version of Scatter has been completely rebuilt using the latest version of Pickle. It's written in Ruby on Rails, but it uses SCADS as the storage backend. Like GRADit, we created logins for all attendees. If you didn't get your laptop out for GRADit, please get it out for Scatter. And log in using your first initial and your last name. And you'll be taken to your home page. If I type my password correctly. That looks as such. So you can see that all your latest tweets will be presented here under your thoughts. And you'll also have a thought stream that shows the tweets from, or the thoughts from the people you subscribe from. I'm not subscribed to anyone right now, so there's a recommended list of people who you should be following. The Rad Lab demo itself will be presenting thoughts as events happen. So you can subscribe to the Rad Lab demo. As you can see, these are the events that have been happening. So if you click subscribe and go back to your home screen, your landing page, you'll see that all of Rad Lab demo's thoughts will be presented on my home screen. The thought stream also shows users that you're actually subscribed to. Currently, if you want to discover a user, you'll need to just go to radlab.scatter.net/users/ the user's name. So I will try to find Armando and subscribe to him. And going back to my home page, I should see Armando's thoughts in my thought stream. That's pretty much the application. We really want you to use this application throughout the day. Our artificial load generator is actually pointing to the same application that you'll be using throughout the day. So Scatter will be scaling up and down as the demo continues throughout today. So please share your thoughts, and if you'd like to find people, ask them for their first initial and last name and subscribe to them as well. Yeah. The next application we'll be presenting will be Comrades.
Okay, is Karl here? Where'd Karl? Huh. Okay. One second. While we look for Karl. Wait. What's that? Karl? Oh my! Elvis has entered the building.
Hello. Thank you very much. So, let's see. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so the application I'm presenting now is Comrades. This is an application for managing your job candidates for a particular company. So, as you can see here, this is a dashboard, which is the main area that the entire app is centered around. There's two lists here, there are pending candidates and top-rated candidates. How this basically works is candidates that you first register in the system will be inside the pending candidates list, and you do this by clicking Register Candidate. So, okay. So because the pending candidates are sorted by the oldest first, I won't actually appear on this list, but because there's already a lot here. But if I click on one of these, then you'll see that the interview status is now currently pending. And if I click Schedule Now, I can interview the candidate. And the interviewer will just put down his name, his comments, and we'll rate them on a scale from 1 to 5. So let's do that real fast here. And so once the interview is completed, you have the choice to either offer or reject them. They will show up if you look at the dashboard on the top-rated candidates list right here. So top-rated candidates are basically any candidates who receive 5 out of 5 because you only want to hire the best people anyway. And this is actually filtered by which area that you're currently looking at. Because I just added one to networking, it's showing me that. But if I look on, say, systems, it'll show me a different list of people. And once you see someone in the top-rated candidates list, okay, it's changed since that last one there. You can look at the interview details, and you can also choose to send them an offer or reject the candidate. So as soon as I find my mouse here, you can just send an offer, and from that point on, they'll be removed from the list. And that's basically the gist of the application. Sorry?
Where's the names coming from right now?
From the workload generator. We ran it briefly this morning.
So I believe those are cat names, aside from Elvis Presley, which might still be a cat name.
How long did it take you to build it?
Oh, sorry. The application took approximately 18 hours over the 3-day weekend to build, and that was just a weekend, just a few days ago, President's Day weekend.
Were you the only one working on it?
Yes, I was the only one working on the application.
That's coming up. That's the next step. I think Alan's about to answer the question.
All right.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about exactly how hard it was working with the Rad Lab stack, and specifically the level of interaction that the web apps had to deal most with, which is SCADS. And from a developer's perspective, working with the Rad Lab stack didn't feel too much different than writing a regular Rails application. For one, it's pretty familiar. The interaction between the application and the storage layer, which is our ORM, is pretty clean, and it feels just like Rails. And the syntax for our query, the query language that we use, which is Pickle, is a lot like existing languages and feels pretty intuitive. A lot of the work is done by our framework, and starting up clusters and storage engines, those are all done by initialization batch jobs. And from a developer standpoint, you don't really have to even touch most of that. And of course, the primary benefit of building an application on top of the Rad Lab stack is that it scales. If my app suddenly gets popular over a weekend, it won't crash, and I won't have to worry about losing users. And you can kind of see on this is on the right is active record, and this is the existing ORM and framework that Ruby on Rails uses. So this is very familiar to Ruby on Rails developers. On the over there is Pickle, which is what we used, and it looks really similar. The structure of the syntax is almost identical, and I had absolutely no trouble picking up the Pickle syntax. But by no means is it a perfect system. By working with SCADS and the Rad Lab stack, we changed some fundamental things in our application structure. And here's where things are most different. Pickle forces you to find all queries in your application and enumerate them completely in a Scala file. And this is a little difficult at first, and it takes some getting used to, because Active Record does not require this at all. Fortunately, these queries almost have identical structures to existing languages like LINQ, and working with a separate query file didn't feel too cumbersome. So it didn't take very much time for us to get used to this format. Most of our troubles in developing our applications on top of the Rad Lab stack were primarily because while we were developing, the platform was still changing. So there was a lot of iterations that we had to go through. But once we sorted out a lot of the issues, writing additional applications on top of the infrastructure wasn't very difficult, as you can see from the weekend application comrades. An initial suggestion was to build a framework that didn't require a predefined query file and can pick out existing queries from Rails applications and write your query file for you. Although we weren't able to do this initially, one can kind of imagine that a framework like that in the future could make it basically no different than writing our existing Rails application today. And lastly, we can imagine more quality applications more quickly. Developers can spend more time on their interaction with their users rather than worrying about the availability of their website. And developing a scalable, robust application in just a weekend is possible. Are there any questions?
So this is a question about programming experience, right?
Yeah. So all four of us took an iteration of the software as a service class mentioned earlier, taught by Armando Fox and Dave Patterson. And do you guys want to talk more about that?
What was the question specifically?
So I guess my question is, how did you allocate your 18 hours, and how much of, what kind of tasks are taken over by the infrastructure, and what are the additional things that you need to do? So it's more like how much the infrastructure has relieved you from the specific programming task, and
Okay, so.
and how is it different from just directly programming on something like a Ruby on Rails? And what does it give? What does the infrastructure give you more than Ruby on Rails kind of experience?
So, in terms of development, the main difference between developing on this stack as compared to a normal Ruby on Rails stack is you will have to compose the queries beforehand. So, in terms of the 18 hours, I spent approximately maybe like 1 hour, like just sort of on design and kind of deciding how the app would approximately work. And I spent another maybe like 5 hours writing queries and testing them out to make sure they're returning the results I expected. And from there on, it was basically just app development as usual. So in terms of actual time taking the app, maybe it takes like a few more hours than a normal application. But because I've already laid out all the queries, the actual application develop time is actually a little bit shorter. Was there any other part to your question? Yes.
So did you have to design your application differently to get scalability than you would have in vanilla? Did you think about scalability?
I mean, I didn't specifically think about scalability working with it. The only part where you even have to consider it is when you're writing the queries. And then it's pretty much just playing like a cardinality constraint. Yeah.
Obviously, there are a lot of concerns when you write an application for scalability concerns. Like even if you write your if you write your application poorly, you're not even the Rad Lab stack won't save you. If you have like thousands of queries running from because of one single request, that's not going to help you. But so what actually happens is Pickle and a lot of the Rad Lab the reporting features. They actually help you with that. So if you actually do something like something silly like have 1,000 queries running from one request, the reporting features will tell you, and then you can redesign your application accordingly.
Kind of just adding to that, the bottlenecks that a scalable application presents is not just limited to the by your storage layer. What the Rad Lab stack does is, at least from our perspective as an app developer, it removes the bottlenecks for accessing data and things like that. The storage layer is no longer a bottleneck for us for the most part. We don't think about, oh, will SQLite scale, right? SQLite comes default with Rails, and we don't expect that to scale. But there are other bottlenecks in an application, and the Rad Lab stack does help us find those bottlenecks, but not necessarily eliminate them if they're specific to the application.
It's probably quite okay to say, not us, but I wondered if you had a chance to experience programming any of the other scalable application frameworks. I'm thinking something like App Engine.
Not me specifically. I mean, Ruby on Rails is pretty much the only framework that I use for app development. Anyone else? No, I think we're all Ruby on Rails folk.
Okay, it'd be nice to know how this compared to what else is going on out there. Not for you, but for the research team as a whole.
I think I can speak to that a little bit. As far as I know, at least Google App Engine doesn't currently support joins. And so one of, I think, the key innovations of Pickle is that it does allow you to do joins as long as you place cardinality constraints on top of that. And then Crystal is going to be talking about some of the work we're doing on predicting what kinds of cardinality constraints will actually fit within your SLO based on the queries you write. So I think that's probably one of the big differences. And then in addition to the fact that you're kind of running on top of Mesos, so you can mix batch jobs and other things in with it as well. Absolutely. So I would say it's kind of similar to that, but the query language is more expressive.
I have one other comment about, I think it maybe use the mic. Oh, sure.
So I think one other comment, though, that illuminates generally why we've kind of stuck to our guns with Ruby on Rails is that, another kind of feedback we've asked you guys throughout the project is, what are the holes in the skill sets that you'd like to see in people that you might employ? And what we got back was testing, testing, testing. People do not understand testing. The testing tools in the Rails ecosystem are the best. I mean, they're far ahead of Python or anything else. So from our point of view, there's also been a benefit in using the framework because it allows us to get that message across. So other functionality being equal, that's one of the reasons that we've sort of used that culture.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then let's bring up Andy to talk about Deploy Lab.